Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Killers of the Flower Moon. And this is Martin Scorsese's most recent film, coming to cinemas from Paramount and Apple TV+. And this is based off of the nonfiction book by David Grann, focusing on the story of murders of Osage people to steal their land rights and the FBI coming in to investigate. And this is from writers Eric Roth and Martin Scorsese brought this story to the screen in an interesting way, as apparently the original script was going to focus on the investigation and then shifted gears to making this a much more human story, with Leonardo DiCaprio's Ernest Burkhart kind of laid at the center of it to give a perspective of, like, here's this white guy who comes into this situation, does horrible things, and is he going to get his comeuppance? And he's married to Molly Burkhart, who is a very strong, powerful Osage woman portrayed by Lily Gladstone. And while Ernest is doing the dirty work of his uncle, William Hale, played by Robert De Niro. And this film clocks in at 3 hours and 25 minutes. And at least to me, I didn't feel bored once at all, and Scorsese just has an energy about him as a filmmaker that made this film move. The only parts that I felt like might have been a little clunky were, you can tell in the transition from the very human part of the story to where they get into, like, the FBI investigation and into the courts, you can tell there's some editing, and there's probably some characters that were in it a lot more and were a lot bigger roles, but decided that part of the story wasn't as important because, to be honest, you as an audience member, you already know this all happened. So the investigation's not going to reveal much to us who are watching the film. But besides that, I've found very few things to be negative about in this film. This film is an important film telling this story that is absolutely horrific and really significant to the relations between Native Americans, indigenous people, to white Americans who were going out west and expanding. And this taking place in Oklahoma, and just the horrors of what these people were doing to the Osage people. Speaking of the Osage people, I appreciate that this film really has a framing of, you open in the culture and you end in the culture. And Molly is really the anchor to this film in terms of the emotions and the weight of everything going on. And Lily Gladstone wears all of that weight on her shoulders with just complete control and confidence, and just a powerful performance that shows Molly going from this strong, powerful woman to very vulnerable places and just everywhere in between. And this film does take the perspective, like, you spend the most time with Ernest. You see the horrors of this all. You never once feel like Ernest is the hero of the story. And it feels like the same kind of thing of The Wolf of Wall Street. We're sitting there with him, watching him do all these horrible things. And it's such an interesting performance from Leonardo DiCaprio, who has to strip away his confidence, his intelligence, and it's just this hammy, just kind of gross buffoon, honestly. And seeing how he interacts with everything. But it's Robert De Niro who gives this towering presence that is haunting and scary and intimidating. And for somebody who's not that big of a man, he's intimidating in this film. Just the way he can look, the way he shifts from being this kind old man to just this look of disdain that comes over him. This deals with such interesting politics of the Osage people and white people coming in with their prejudices and their racism, and Scorsese never pulls any punches in terms of showing the brutality of this story. The supporting cast, so many of the supporting players are actual Osage people, and they're incredible. Like, so many of those characters really stand out in an impressive way. You do have Jesse Plemons, who's a much subtler character in terms of Tom White, who is a Texas Ranger turned FBI investigator, and he's got his big 10-gallon hat, and his presence is important to move the story along, and he is a very great reactionary actor in this film. And you have some people like John Lithgow, who really does great work in the very limited screen time he has. There's a lot being said about Brendan Fraser's performance, which I don't think it's a bad performance. It's just he yells, he intimidates, and he's in it for like 3 minutes of a 3-hour and 25-minute movie. He doesn't get a whole lot to do, and I think him and Lithgow were probably parts that got really trimmed down in editing, to be honest. But you have character actors like Scott Shepherd and others who pop up in this film, and like Gene Jones and Steve Whitting. They're these performers that you 100% recognize their faces and their voices, but you don't know who they are. But it felt like a Coen Brothers movie in that way. You had all these little tiny character actors filling things in. But this film is sprawling and epic, and Scorsese knows how to make an epic for the screen. And Rodrigo Prieto, who is the cinematographer, who also did Barbie this year, delivers, and I would not be shocked if this won a cinematography Oscar. And Robbie Robertson, who this is his last project before passing away, the music is haunting. It's this interesting mix of guitar, like it feels like a Jim Jarmusch score from like Dead Man, with like this guitar playing, but then these Osage drums in the background, and they're just like thump, thump, and just the how unnerving it feels, and the tension being built. There's always tension in every single scene in this film, and Scorsese knows how to keep ratcheting it and ratcheting it. There's a couple of great choices in terms of storytelling, especially how they deliver the, and this is what happened to everybody. Like, that ending piece is so great. But in the end, this is a sprawling epic that is important, significant, enthralling, and just from start to finish, this feels like a true piece of cinema from somebody who has literally been doing this for decades. Going out, making this revisionist Western combined with crime thriller, and just delivering on all cylinders. This is a special film, and definitely was worth watching. I watched it in Prime Theater at AMC. Yes. But those are my thoughts on Killers of the Flower Moon. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.